Hello, welcome back to my channel if you're new here. My name is Jordan, and for today's video, I thought I would take you guys through essentially my favorite books of all time, my 6-star reads, my god tier books, books that have changed my life, books that I'll never stop thinking about. You get the gist. So yeah, I'm kind of just gonna jump right in. I do have, let's see, 8 books to go through. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. So the first one is Normal People by Sally Rooney. And this one I feel like is on a lot of people's top 5, top 10 lists. And that is for a very, very good reason. This book is such a sad and romantic yet realistic depiction of love when you're younger and when you're going through the beginnings of adulthood with school and figuring out your career and your passions. I feel like if you haven't read a Sally Rooney book, I recommend this one to get started with because it's a pretty easy read and you get a really good sense of her writing style because it is very different. I will tell you that. Also, another reason that this book is just on this list and has changed my life is because this was the book that essentially got me into reading again. I read this December of 2023. Yeah, and after I finished it, I was just in the mood to pick up another book. And then the next thing you know, here we are. So this book I just really owe a lot to. It really just helped me fall in love with reading again. So that's the first one. And then the second one, so pretty quickly after that, I ended up starting and absolutely binging Fourth Wing. And I feel like I'm going to be really quick and brief with this one. I feel like if you're watching this video, you've honestly probably read it. So many people have read this book, and it is one of those that you either love or hate. There's just not really an in between. I don't really know why. How I said with Normal People, how it helped me fall in love with reading again. This book helped me become obsessed with reading. Essentially, ever since I finished this book, I have just been binge reading, and I read this in January or February of last year. So I owe so much to this book. It helped me fall in love with the enemies to lovers trope, the like, if bad, why hot? Just like even you're giggling and kicking your feet over a morally gray man. This book just introduced me to so many good tropes, and I don't know, I feel like this is like my first love when it comes to fantasy and enemies to lovers and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I eat this book up every time I reread it. I love it so much. Okay, and then next we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This was the second book of hers I read, and I think it is the one that has stuck with me the most. I love the main characters in this one. So the main character is Nora Stevens, and she is essentially, so you know that trope where someone will move to a small town and they typically have a boyfriend or a girlfriend like back home in the big city, but then when they move to the small town, they figure out how in love with nature they are and they love being disconnected from the big city, and they're leaving behind their partner because they were very cold and distant and they weren't good for them. So picture like that person that's being left behind in the big city. That is Nora. That is our main character in Book Lovers. And I just loved getting that perspective and that side because typically you only hear about the little love story that happens in the small town, but she always gets left. Her boyfriends that she dates always leave her and then end up finding their true love. And she meets Charlie Lastra. I love him. And this is just their story of how they met once and they did not hit it off. And then they end up seeing each other again in this small town and then reconnecting and all that good stuff. But yeah, out of all of her books, this one has always stuck with me. And I just love that she's a little bit colder, isn't like that warm and fuzzy and gooey character that I think are in so many romance books. I don't know. This one really hit home. And I loved this book so much. Okay. And then the next book is a definite tearjerker. This is The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. I read this early this year because I wanted to read something else written by her because I knew that she had written like romance books before her Fourth Wing Empyrean series. So I picked up this one and oh my gosh, this book absolutely gutted me. Like literally demolished, destroyed me. I cried so much. There are so many good quotes and lines in this book. I don't know if you can see, the tabs are like a light pink. You probably can't see that, but this book was just absolutely incredible. And I think what I realized about this book was that Rebecca Yarros is so good about writing men who are so down bad and so in love with their women. She's just so good about writing about men in love. I don't know, she just does it so well. And I think one of the reasons that this book is on my god tier list is because I just always I always find myself thinking about it. And when I do think about it, it's like a shot to the chest. It is so sad, but so worth the read. And there is a plot twist at the end, which I was just not expecting in a romance book. Oh, I if you like a good tearjerker romance, I recommend this one. Oh, it was so good. I will never ever stop thinking about Scarlett and Jameson and about these characters. It does have a dual timeline going on. So Scarlett and Jameson, they both live in England during World War II. And then we have a present timeline with Noah and Georgia, I think are their names. Yeah. And so the story jumps back and forth between Noah and Georgia's timeline and Scarlett and Jameson's timeline. And then we kind of see how they all weave together. But yeah, this just this book, guys, this book is so, so good. Oh my gosh. Okay. Next on this list, this is a book that I read in one sitting while I was flying back from the UK. So I read it in like a little over 9 hours. This is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. Oh my gosh. This book is absolutely incredible. So, so binge worthy. It is definitely more on the toxic side where all of the characters are flawed. And at one point, you just want to scream at them and be like, oh my gosh, what are you guys doing? This book will make you want to like rip your hair out, but then it'll make you laugh, make you cry. Just, it'll make you feel all the things. It follows Kat and Heath in their journey to ice dancing Olympics and their wins and their losses and their relationship and how toxic and messy but real it is. Oh, if you were a fan of Daisy Jones and the Six, if you've read that book and you enjoyed it, I would check this one out because it's a similar format of that like documentary style. It also takes place in like a first person point of view with Katerina, the main character. This book was so binge worthy and so real. Like I felt like I was reading about real characters because of the way it was written. When I finished this book, I felt like I could just go on my TikTok For You page and watch videos of Katerina and Heath ice dancing together because they just seemed like real people. And there's also a Taylor Swift reference in this book towards the end. And it wasn't like a cheesy reference, it was The Last Time, which is on her Red album, which is such an underrated song. But I was so caught off guard by that song being in this book and it fit so perfectly. And now when I listen to that song or when I hear the opening chords, I either have to immediately skip the song because I will start crying, or I just sit there and scream the song because it is so good. Anyways, I love this book. I will never, ever, ever stop thinking about it. Also, my lighting got worse. Let me see if I can make that better. Okay, that's a little bit better. I'm sitting in front of a window and I think it's getting a little cloudy, but sorry. Anyways, next, this I read a few months ago. This is Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. Oh my gosh. If you are a woman who has rage, just you need to pick up this book. It is so good. Even if you don't have rage, but you full stop if you're just a woman, I think you should read this book. I did talk about it on my February or March wrap up. I can't remember which month I read this book. I think March. I honestly can't remember. So this book follows Rory Morris. She is our main character and she is bitten by a werewolf one night. And this is on the back of the book, I promise it's not a spoiler. But she's bitten by a werewolf one night and she turns into one. This is technically a horror women's fiction, but if you've read any like fantasy book, I feel like you'd be fine. It wasn't really scary. I think it was just a little bit gory and gross at times. Anyways, she becomes a werewolf, but what the author did was that it really takes you into her mind and how she felt with her body changing because the main character was just so angry and upset that her body was changing. Like, yeah, she was upset that she was becoming a werewolf, but mostly it was just that she didn't have control over her body and that it was changing without her permission. I just loved how, like, honest it was and it was just told so well. I would check the trigger warnings for this book because our main character did go through something when she was younger that definitely affected and impacted her journey and her feelings. At the same time, her sister is also pregnant, and so she's also struggling with her body changing as well. It's just a really good story about being a woman and not having control over your body and it changing without your permission, which I think all women experience at one point, whether it's puberty or pregnancy or your period once a month or menopause. There are just so many different things that our bodies go through as women. This just did a really good job of depicting the anger that we might sometimes feel because of that. So yeah, this was an incredible read. I highly, highly recommend it. Definitely does have some spooky vibes. It does take place around Halloween. So if you're wanting to pick this up, I might recommend reading it during the fall time. And then next, this should come as no surprise if you know me or have watched any of my videos recently. This is the Magnolia Parks series by Jessa Hastings. I rated this entire series 5, 6 stars. This is a series I will never, ever, ever stop thinking about. I think about these characters in these books at least once a day. The writing is beautiful, the characters are flawed, everything just feels so real, and this series has had such a big impact on my life. I don't think I'll ever read a series that has changed me so much. Like, I just feel like a completely different person than before I started reading this series. Like, I'm a changed person. I will just never be over these characters in this story. And it's not even finished. I literally talk about this series, I think, in 3 of my other videos, so I won't say too much. But yeah, all you need to know is that if you can handle really flawed characters and toxic and messy, I would highly, highly, highly recommend this series. This is a series where in the first few books you are just so frustrated with these characters, but by the end you care so deeply about them and you are so proud of how far they've come and you get to see every bit of their journey. It's just so, so good. So yeah, 6 star series, God tier. I love it. And then this last book is a book that I read quite recently, actually. This is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I do have a vlog coming out with me reading this book, so I won't say too terribly much, but this was easily a 5 star read for me. I tabbed this book like crazy, and I took a lot of photos of some quotes in this book, and I still go back most days and look at these quotes, and it makes me want to reread this. And I literally read this a few weeks ago. I can't stop thinking about it. Jessa Hastings has such a way with her writing and her characters, and I feel like when you finish one of her books, you feel like you're mourning the loss of best friends, of losing a friend. I loved the main characters. I loved Georgia so much. I love Sam Penny. It was just such a good and also a messy book. It definitely was a little insta-lovey. I think it was done in a really well way that I didn't even really mind it. This is just a book that will also just stay with me. But yeah, so these are all the 8 books that are on my God tier list. I don't really have much to say other than I love them and I'm a different person because of them. These are all the physical books that are on my 6 star God tier list. I probably have some on that I've read on Kindle Unlimited. So if you guys want me to make a part 2 to this, please let me know. This is going to be it for today's video. I just wanted a nice, quick sit down video where I got to talk to you guys for a bit. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.